Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thanks as always for making your way here. Checking out the series. You know what to do. Like what you see, what you hear, hit that subscribe button. I put out 3 new interviews every single week, so it's a great way to keep up with all of your favorite artists. I am excited today. Lance Reddick is here. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing great. I could say this at any point, I think, in the past 20 years, but you are a busy man.
Well, I don't know about any point in the last 20 years, but at least the last few years.
Yeah, that's what it seems like, especially now. The topic, the main subject that we're hitting at immediately anyway is Farzar. This is a new animated series on Netflix that you play the lead role in. And it's adult animation and it's adult comedy. I'm going to let you set this one up if you don't mind. Like, can you give us the kind of the gist of this series right here?
Oh my gosh. It's funny because I'd forgotten. I've got so many things going on. I'd forgotten that we were going to talk about this today. I was thinking it was more Resident Evil. So
I'm going to get to that one as well, by the way.
Yeah, unlike Resident Evil, I actually haven't seen it yet. Mm-hmm. So it's been a while, but basically it's set on a distant planet, and I play Renzo, who's the king of the planet, and he is married to Queen Flammy, who is a rather elderly woman who has kind of extreme kinky sexual tastes. And he married her to get her kingdom, and they have a kid who's a goof. And Bazarak is their main nemesis, who's constantly trying to take over the planet. So all kinds of hijinks happen there. Yeah.
Right. It's a fun one. And by the way, yeah, we are going to talk about Resident Evil a little bit as well. But this is an interesting one again, because I didn't know what I was getting into when I watched the few of these. You hear adult animation, but this took me back a little bit. Like, it's not the type of comedy that most try to get away with anymore. Is that fair to say?
Well, wow, what an interesting thing to say. Most try to get away with anymore. What do you mean?
You know what I mean? So fair enough.
And part of the reason because Roger and Waco, the creators, their track record is each series gets more outrageous. Right. So after Brickleberry and Paradise PD, I think this is they pull out all the stops on this one. I don't know. I can't imagine what they're going to do after this.
I guess that's what I mean. Is like, there are so many dick jokes. I think you could have a per minute, counter on the dick jokes that happen here. It's been so long. It's been so long since I recorded it. It's been a year and I haven't seen it yet, so I forgot that. Yeah. This the dick, well, just any kind of genitalia. I think that's the running genitalia counter is pretty nonstop throughout it. And I guess that's what I mean. Like, there's adult animation all around us, but this one seems like, as you were kind of saying, like it goes to the further extreme as anything. I guess one thing I would be curious is, when they pitched this to you, how did they set it up for you? And maybe, other than, hey, this seems like a cool job, was there anything that actually attracted you to the project?
It was just, honestly, I worked with them on Paradise PD, and it's mostly just because they asked me. I wish I had a more profound answer than that. But we got this new show, and it's the lead, if you can say that about their shows, because their shows are always really an ensemble. And they kind of gave me a description of the character. I was like, well, sure, why not?
Well, at least, I'll say this from what you can remember. These do seem like the kind of lines that would be a whole lot of fun. The type of lines that you might not be able to, as an actor, deliver all that often. Especially like, is there an art to delivering a good swear word? A good, powerful fuck and everything else. Like, again, it seems like a bit of a barrage the whole time.
Well, so you got to unfortunately, you got to remind me, because I haven't seen the show, and it's been about almost a year since we wrapped recording. Yeah. So I can't remember how many fucks I said.
I'm just saying there's a lot. That's all. It does seem like again.
Or if even I'm the main fuck person, so to speak.
I think everybody's the main fuck person in this one, to be honest. But
yeah.
Well, I think I'll just throw that out a bit more broadly, and that's in the same type of question. To get those kind of lines, I don't know. Maybe I'm trying too hard on this one, and apologies if I am.
Well, let me put it this way. I spent a lot of my career not once I started doing film and television, not being able to do much comedy. That's changed, particularly in the last 5 years. 5 years, especially with corporate, which sadly is no more. But it's one of the favorite things I've ever done in my career. And I'm a goof. One of my favorite word that my wife hates is titty. I love to say titties. It's just from when I was a kid. It's like
it's a funny word.
Yeah, well, to me, I mean, I guess to a lot of guys it is. Yeah, to a lot of women it's not.
It's probably not. What was that transition like for you then? I mean, yeah, going from those early dramatic roles and finally, I don't know, is it like the comedy doors are open? I mean, honestly, obviously, I should say you've worked for it, but what was that? How has that transition been?
Well, it's just that it's I don't know how to put it. Because for the most part, I don't do sketch comedy. It's scripted comedy. So for the most part, it's not, it's using the same muscle, but working it slightly differently. And what's been interesting for me, particularly on corporate, was the fact that I was working with people, except for Annie, who's a brilliant actor, people who either came from stand-up comedy or sketch comedy. So getting used to kind of hanging with them and going with lines that are improv was something that I just had to get used to. But it's a lot of fun. Yeah. I'm a goof. I don't know if you've seen any of my this stuff that's not political, and in my Instagram and Twitter stuff that's silly. I mean, I'm a goof. So I love that, and I love that kind of raunchy, irreverent humor.
Yeah, and that's I grew up on that. I mean, I'm 40 now, so really, I was coming of age, especially. I don't know what you would say, like the early MTV generation, or especially the mid MTV generation, when it was like Beavis and Butthead, who's back, Space Ghost, and that type of stuff. I mean, there was an underground, and even going back, even to the album.
Space Ghost.
Yes.
Not Space. Okay. Yeah.
Correct.
That's
Correct. But even like the albums of the 70s, I was discovering those, not too long afterwards. The comedy albums. Yeah, those comedy albums of the 70s. Yeah. Like that was, like whether it was Cheech and Chong or Richard Pryor or any of that stuff, like there was an air of danger because this was the stuff you can't tell your parents that you're listening to or watching, Like, was that a big part of yours as well?
No, believe it or not, growing up, I was, I feel like it's a dirty word now, but I was, in terms of my taste for comedy, and I can't believe I'm afraid to say this. I was a Bill Cosby guy. So, I mean, and the bluest stuff that I had were old Red Fox albums from like the 50s and the early 60s that were really meant for Black people in clubs anyway. But I think that when I was in high school, all that stuff happening in the 70s, quite frankly, I think I was just too squared and mature to get it. So, yeah, I didn't... for me, the next big stand-up comedian that really influenced me in terms of that made an impact on me culturally was Eddie Murphy. So that's kind of skipping a generation. Yeah.
But still, I mean, yeah. I mean, he was carrying that torch. Absolutely.
Yeah, he was. But the 70s, I mean, when you bring that up, it's like all those guys, even when George Carlin changed and Richard Pryor, they all broke open. What started with I almost said Lenny Kravitz, with Lenny Bruce.
Different, the two. See that audio mashup though? It's going in my head how to make that work though. It's
man, you got me thinking about it.
But of course, I know at that point though, you were also you came from the music world. I mostly exist in the music world myself. I listened to your album just the other day.
That's getting long in the tooth. That was about 12 years ago.
It was about 12 years. I was actually surprised in that. Like, is that an itch that you have anymore? Do you find yourself scratching that these days?
Not so much, and I regret it. Because when I did the album, because for those people who don't know, I grew up studying classical music, and then I went to conservatory, and then I left conservatory because I realized I didn't want to be a classical composer. I wanted to be staying, basically. And so acting is something I fell into, but music is always, it's always kind of dear to my heart. It's part of my soul. It's influenced my work as an actor a lot, actually. But it's interesting because I just gave the commencement speech about a month and a half ago at the University of Rochester, where I went to school. And then the next day I was at the Eastman School of Music to get an award. And I stood on that stage and I watched their commencement speaker, who is a Pulitzer Prize-winning composition alum. I was so green because it's like when I was in music school, like every classical, and for at least for my generation, they're probably more cynical now. For my generation, every classical composition student, dreams of standing up there and saying I won the Pulitzer. So that was tough. That was tough.
Since you brought it up, if you don't mind going further into that, how does it influence your work today? I do talk to a lot of actors who, especially actor musicians, and that's why I always use the term artist broadly anyway, but it's always interesting, whether it's just like, you've got your hype songs or that you enter your work in a musical way. Like how what is it for you?
For me, it's not, except for the rare occasion when I have to do really emotional scenes. It's not so much that I use music to get into character as kind of and I really discovered this when I started learning how to play Shakespeare, when I started studying Shakespeare as an actor. The way that I how do I put this? I think a lot, and I don't want to say think because it's more instinctual. It's more almost like I feel because I'm very kinesthetic, but I feel a lot in terms of rhythm and tune in my performances. And it's not that I'm like choreographing the tune of, you know what I mean? Or even choreographing the rhythm, but I'm just aware of how important that is for a character's rhythm and a character's tune. And part of that is accent. And I found that I have somewhat of an ear for accents because I have a musical ear. So, that all matters as an actor. And I actually think it matters as a writer too. I see coming from composition, I can appreciate structure and form in writing.
Yeah, I think it's always fun especially when you notice actors who are musical and you can tell in the way they use their voice, not in a sing-songy way. I mean, even when it's just talking, but there's sort of a musicality in a lot of the way people use their voice in delivering lines, I guess. And, when you can eyeball that.
It's interesting. I actually went through a period of time where I, moving into the middle of the wire, where I got kind of a set rhythm, and I didn't realize I was doing it. So once Fringe was over, I had to realize I had to completely break. And I realized, particularly working with John Noble, who has an extraordinary voice on Fringe, I realized that I had to go back to basics in terms of my my kind of daily vocal training, particularly not so much when I wasn't working, although I should, but definitely when I'm working. One thing I try to never do is get to set without having vocalized, so that I'm grounded in my voice. And the other thing is just how important. How do I put this? Finding a rhythm doesn't mean setting a rhythm. So I really, really started finding this in my work in Bosch, kind of the asymmetrical symmetry to the give and take. Very it's still shaped, but at the same time, it's very much more rhapsodic. That's hard to. This is really hard to try to translate. No, in terms of how I approach rhythm and tune in my performance.
Yeah, I get that though, and I will reference again this Farzar, this animated series, because you seem like you have to be so bombastic in that.
Oh yeah. Well, Renzo, he is. I don't know if you ever saw Corporate, but Renzo is he is Christian DeVille on steroids if he was dumb. Like Christian's just pompous, but he's smart. Renzo's dumb.
Right.
And but he's the king of the world.
It's fun hearing that. And again, I imagine, because I know we're short on time here, and I do want to quickly hit on Resident Evil too, to have the range of roles like that. I mean, you are representing, I think, one of the great iconic characters as far as, the genre goes. And I'm just speaking of Resident Evil now. How do you approach this when there's such a strong franchise already in place? Is there a trick to that?
Well, my trick was that I didn't know. Man, listeners are gonna hate me. I didn't even know that it was a game. Mm-hmm. I only knew the movies. So when it first came up, I mean, a TV show based on those movies, what role would I play in that? Because Wesker's hardly in the films. Mm-hmm. And so what happened was I read the first, because the scripts were written for the most part before we even started shooting. So before I even got the role, I read the first 7 of the 8 episodes of the first season. So I was hooked by the character, and I was hooked by the story, and how good the writing was, and the fact that it was so different from anything I had an opportunity to do before. So for me, it was all about playing the character on the page, and I didn't really kind of get overwhelmed by how daunting the responsibility is in terms of the franchise until after the fact. Yeah,
that's nice. You probably take some of the.
And at the same time, it's like, oh boy, now I'm scared.
Well, I'll quickly say that, even with both of these projects, and I'll say sci-fi as a genre, the great ones always find the way to reflect what we're currently being faced with. Of course, Resident Evil's pulling from something that's long been in the games, but even just the word virus, it's there. Looking at Farzar, you have alien rights, and this whole thing of, are the good guys really the good guys, or are we the bad guys after all? So
they're no good guys. So
I guess what I'm getting at is, when you're doing these and you've got these kind of topics, do you sort of use actual reality, actual current events, with what you're doing on the screen?
I don't, as an actor, I don't think that way. It's interesting. I had a conversation, I won't say with who, but with the director about a film role, and he was talking about, because something happened with the role that I didn't like, and so we were having a creative conversation about it, and he was explaining the symbol, what the character that I was playing represented, the symbolism. And I said to him, I can't play but as an actor, I can't play a symbol. I have to play a person. So I have to find a way to make this to humanize and to make this 3-dimensional. So I may take on a project, or I may appreciate or be proud of its kind of social and political relevance, but I'm never playing that. I'm just playing the character in the situation.
Right. Yeah, I get that. I'm looking forward to seeing that whole series, by the way, as I wrap this up. And
pretty great. I'm biased, but it's pretty great.
Did I really quickly, did I see that you're going to be in White Men Can't Jump, the new version of that?
Yes. In fact, my last game was last Thursday. Yeah.
Jack Harlow, one of our Louisville guys down here.
That's right. I forgot he's from Louisville.
Did you spend much time together?
I only had one scene with Jack.
Okay.
Yeah. I spent more time with Sinqua.
Yeah. That's going to be a fun one too. I'm looking forward to seeing how they update that one for the now. So that's what a classic.
Wow. No, you know what? This is going to be similar to Resident Evil. I've never seen the original, so I wasn't comparing when I read the script.
Yeah.
I just knew that it was an iconic kind of cult hit, but I'd never seen the film, so I didn't compare. I just knew that I loved the character, and I thought the script was really, in addition to being funny, it's really well written, and it's really human and poignant. I think it's going to be a great film.
Yeah, looking forward to that one too. Yeah. Lance, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me about all this. That one, of course, Resident Evil, Farzar, both on Netflix. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise.
All right, take care, man.
You too.